What if you could make $25,000 a month working just 25 hours a week? In this episode, Bradley Jacobs, an ex-Uber leader turned solo consultant and now founder of MyLance, reveals exactly how he did it. After scaling Uber Eats and Uber Freight to billion-dollar valuations, Bradley walked away from corporate life to build a flexible, freedom-first career. He shares how he turns his consulting hustle into a movement, helping other fractional executives land high-paying clients without sacrificing their lifestyle. We deep dive into the rise of fractional work, the power of authentic content marketing, and why credibility, not clicks, is the key long-term business strategy. Bradley also unpicks how MyLance helps consultants ditch inconsistent income and build a sustainable businesses through niche positioning and done-for-you LinkedIn strategies. If you're curious about consulting, scaling your personal brand, or building a life-first business, this is a must-watch conversation. Hey Bradley, how are you today?
Doing great. Excited to be here.
Thank you for joining me today. Now, we're going to be talking about the three areas: clients, your journey, as well as how you serve your clients, as well as building your business. But my first question is something that's been intriguing me, and I have a theory about this, but I want to hear yours. Where did the word fractional occur, and why is it now quite a fashionable way to describe a consultant?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think honestly, the word consultant, I was a consultant my first job out of college, and it can often be this fluffy term, right? Of these young kids. That's what it is. I was 22. I didn't really know anything. And they come in to give business advice. Who am I to give business advice, basically? And there was a lot of research involved, but it's this fluffy term. And so as this movement of working for yourself has just grown really exponentially with COVID, but just in general, there's the need for this segmentation of what it means to support a business in some sort of part time capacity in different ways. And so the fractional term, from my experience, really grew as more higher end, more executive level roles that are coming in to support in a CMO, chief product officer, chief operations officer, but only part time. And so instead of saying I'm your part time COO, it's fractional COO. And I work with a few different clients at one time. And it's more accurate than I'm an operations consultant.
Yeah.
It's not quite nailing what that person does.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. I get that. It feels like it's a very much a buzzword at the moment, the way that it's being
Agreed.
described. And as I say, in my networking capacity, I get a lot of fractional people, and it's just, and as you say, it's giving people more flexibility, working with clients on a part-time basis rather than a full-time job. So there is a lot of sense to it, but it feels very buzzwordy. Like when you went through COVID, everything was pivoting. Like everything was, you're having to pivot your business, you're having to pivot the way you run your operations. So it feels like a word for 2025 very much.
Agreed. Yeah. When people get all bent out of shape around, am I a consultant? Am I a fractional? Am I a freelancer? What are all these definitions? I'm like, does it really matter?
Yeah,
It's like you're going to add value to it. Like,
exactly.
who cares? I had someone scold me for using it in a certain way. And I was like, just because you defined it in a certain way doesn't mean I need to abide by your rules. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Okay,
doesn't
let's talk
matter.
about MyLance. So MyLance Scale promises to handle marketing and content for fractional executives. What's the first step that you do to be able to build trust and credibility for your new client?
It really starts even before that of we need to know in incredible detail and clarity who's your ideal customer, right? And it's something that everyone talks about, but very few people actually do this well because it goes against the conventional wisdom of I want to actually narrow my focus incredibly so of who's my customer, what are they what are they struggling with, what are their pain points, and then what's my unique value add that really closes the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. And without doing that work in a very thoughtful, narrow way, then no matter what kind of marketing you do, it's not going to be effective. That's what we have found. Like you have to be super, super narrow, and nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to eliminate that segment and that segment, but we have to because you want to get to a point where when you pitch yourself or you share what problem you solve, the client or company or person you're talking to says, "Oh, that's for me." Or they say, "That's not for me." But you don't want the question to be, "What do you mean?" Like that's the
Right.
question you're trying to avoid. Because if you say I'm like an operations consultant, it's cool. What does that mean? I have no idea. Right. But if you're very prescriptive in, I use product to help automate the analytics for your business to understand exactly where you're growing and where you're not growing. Okay, great. You know what I do. And as a business owner, do I have that problem or not?
Yeah. And how do you move your clients from this generic LinkedIn content towards a more strategic, relationship driven messaging?
Yeah. The generic content, right, is especially with AI these days, it's write me preachy marketing posts about how to think about marketing for your business. The most effective content is sharing your personal experience. So no one
Hmm.
has had the same set of experiences that you have. And so when you share these personal anecdotes from companies where you've learned, experienced, made mistakes, had wins, losses, all of the things, you are one, validating what you know. You are two, building a relationship from the standpoint of I'm learning about you and I'm learning from you. And so when a decision maker or frankly just anyone sees that, there's a total different kind of relationship built that's authentic, that's genuine, that's legitimizing versus let me teach you how to grow your SaaS business in 2025. That's not going to capture anyone. It's not interesting. It's not different. By definition, if you're sharing your own stuff, you are different. No one has had the same set of experiences you've had.
It's interesting because you got something like YouTube, which is much more of a commitment than a LinkedIn strategy. And what really works on YouTube is 6 ways to solve this problem, nine hacks to develop this. But when you're talking about stuff on LinkedIn, and I've experienced this, I've worked with LinkedIn consultants, LinkedIn specialists about my content. What they do reflect back to me is it needs to be your story, your value add, the case studies, the personal journeys that you've been through, as well as adding value of your experience and your expertise and your knowledge and putting that into your content. What for you now on LinkedIn is actually making the biggest difference for your niche of fractional people?
It's really just what you said, right? It's saying, okay, based on my customer, their pain points, my value add, like always start there. Now I'm going to share stories that kind of close the loop on all of those things, right? So if I love using the example of a marketing analytics consultant where I give you the information you need to make good business decisions about where to invest in growth and what channels to cut off, right? These are the channels working, these are the channels that are not working. If I write a preachy post that just says that, it is about, let's just say, a 2 out of 10 on the effectiveness scale. I'm like, here's how you can do this for your business. If I write a post about how I did this for Series A company
Yeah.
XYZ, and I share that they were growing at 20% month over month and they didn't really know where their growth was coming from, but I looked at all their channels. I saw 3 channels were crushing it, 2 channels were not. We turned off these 2. We invested the money into those 3. And now we're growing at 35% month over month. And here's how we did it. That is a captivating post. That is, I'm like, oh my God, I want to learn. And then I probably want to talk to you. Like, I want to learn from you. And all of a sudden, you have a sales call. And so that is the biggest difference of let me teach you how to grow your business faster in 2025 to this is what I did. This is what I learned. This is how I did it. And this is how you can think about it for your business too.
And
Very,
for your clients, is mainly LinkedIn the best platform for them?
it is. Your customer is on LinkedIn. If your customer is a business, holistically, they are on LinkedIn. So anyone who's not publishing content on LinkedIn, in my opinion, every single day, and your customer's a business, I don't know what the hell you're doing. I'm like, it's mind blowing to me that someone's not showing up on LinkedIn because your customer is literally there in their bored free time scrolling the feed.
Yeah. What are the biggest positioning mistakes that you've experienced with your clients when it comes to standing out on, let's say, LinkedIn? And how were you able to fix them and get them on the right course?
So the biggest mistake by far is just being too broad. Like even when we have customers fill out our intake form, I would say 99% of the time they put in like an employee range from 10 to 1,000. And then I ask them the questions. Do you think the 10-person company and the 900-person company have the same set of problems?
Yeah.
No, it's literally not close. So we just really push them and say, look, we got to get to a very narrow range. And it may seem narrow in your head, but if we close the range from 20 employees to 100 employees, there are millions of businesses that still fit that criteria. Yes, you eliminated millions of business, but you still have millions. And so the world is much bigger than people realize, people think in their head. So if they go too broad, I'd say that's part one. And then two is they're just too generic in what they talk about and in what they do or the problems that they solve. Because I was just talking to an AI consultant. I'm like, wow, if you pitch yourself as an AI consultant, you are one of 50 million AI consultants, and no one has any idea what you do. It
Mm.
goes back to that same thing I was talking about earlier. So using a title to describe what you do is literally useless in my opinion. I think you beg more questions than you answer. So instead of I'm an AI consultant, you might talk about I use AI to automate your marketing funnel, for example. Right? Now I'm like, okay, do I need help with that or not? I know what you do. It's very clear. It's very simple. Right? In fact, I use AI to automate your marketing funnels for e-commerce CPG businesses. Like now, when you have the e-commerce CPG business who needs help with their marketing funnel, you're the person,
Yeah.
right? And again, like how many clients do you really need as a consultant? And so again, you're getting super, super narrow. People don't want to do it, but it's the most important thing you could do.
Amazing. And how do you work with clients? How do you tailor your approach to those clients when you're looking at newer people versus much more experienced fractional consultants?
Yeah, the newer folks just have less of an idea of who their customer is and what their pain points are. And so we just might need to do a little bit more iteration with those people. And so I prefer working with the more experienced folks because they have incredible clarity. Here's my customer. This is the pain point. I've seen it for years over and over again. A newer person might do their best. And then we're going to meet again in 2 months and say, okay, like, how is this landing? What do we can look at the data? But really, from your conversations, what is it going? How is it going? I actually just had a customer come back to me and she's like, the customer is the same, but how I talk about the pain point is different. I was like, okay, let's go back and redo the strategy because it needs to tell a story, right? Customer is this, they have this pain point, this value add, you have done this in your past. And so we're going to talk about it in the following way. And if any one of those things changes, then we need to redo it.
And what on LinkedIn are you promoting? Text post, pictures, videos, carousels? Are you saying a mixture? What strategies are you sharing with your clients?
So, my opinion is that the simplest route obviously is text. If you're going to do anything and you want the lowest lift, just write text post. Like you could get away with an entire LinkedIn strategy that's only text. So, I'll start there. Let's keep the bar really low. The next one for me is video because seeing your face, hearing your voice, it builds that relationship even further. There's just more trust there. There's more legitimacy. Like you're a real human that's well spoken. I think video is great and video can be really awkward to record. So what I tell people is like literally get a friend or your assistant or somebody and just get on a Zoom call and have them ask you questions, just like you're asking me questions right now. And that way you're not sitting there like trying to put on a beautiful face, like just have a conversation. And that's the best way to come across natural in a video when you're maybe not used to doing it.
Yeah.
Then I don't think pictures and carousels are a bad idea. Do I think they're holistically really necessary for what we're talking about? I don't. And people put a lot of emphasis on this. And I'm like, I think that for how much work it is to create those things, I don't think it's worth it, is my hot take on
Okay.
it. So I'd say definitely text. If you can add in video, it's a great value add. For me, I only do text and video.
Okay.
I've experimented with it all. I've been posting on LinkedIn for 7 years, but I have not seen that the juice is worth the squeeze for pictures, carousels, polls, the rest of it. It's like text, video, I'm good to go. And that's what I tell my clients.
Interesting. This episode is sponsored by Zach Southall PT. Quick story, I wanted to lose weight and add muscle. Working with my personal trainer Rob at Zach Southall PT with guidance from Zach too has been a game changer for me. They are incredibly supportive and seriously knowledgeable about fitness and nutrition. The first week I recorded and photographed all my food which Rob was looking at to assess the nutrition but also the amount of food I was eating. Then we added gym and cardio sessions, which has made me feel healthier and more confident because when you feel better, you perform better in life and business. The plan that they've created fits my life, training, food, and accountability. The results have been great. I feel I'm only partway through this journey and I'm staying with Rob and Zach to hit my target weight and muscle goals. If you want the same momentum, go to the link below to complete the form and Zach will be in contact. If you're a busy business owner not prioritizing your health, this is going to be a game changer. Let's go back a little bit further. You went from managing multiple Uber markets to building this business. What was that turning point for you where you wanted to leave the corporate life and go off on your own journey?
At Uber, I had gone to less structured businesses over time, like Uber Rides to Uber Eats to Uber Freight. Like Uber Freight we didn't have an app when I started. And I learned a few things about myself. One is I love the unstructured, I love the small, I love the create something from nothing. And I also learned I'm pretty good at scaling and growing a business. And I've been doing it for somebody else for a long time now. And they actually asked me to go launch another business line for them. At that time, it was called Uber Works, like a labor marketplace. And I was considering doing it. I was like, okay, it was gonna be a small team. We're gonna get a certain budget and like find product market fit. It was a pretty cool opportunity. And my mentor at the time, he asked me, he's like, do you really want to go build a fourth business line for Uber? And I just thought about it. I was like, you're right. Like, this is the time to go make a bet on myself. And so I just quit. I didn't have anything lined up. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was just like, I just know I'm done with this. And luckily, I had some savings. So I was able to take some time off. But I just knew I was done building businesses for someone else. I'd always had that entrepreneurial spirit, mind, energy. As I am ready to actually go fully into this myself because I had tinkered with side projects and started little things here and there, as probably all of us have. But I was ready to put my full energy into something that was mine. And it felt to me the only way for me to do it. I know some people can build the side businesses, but I had to get to a place where I was not going to fail no matter what. Like I was just going to put all of my energy into it. I was not going to take failure or shutting it down as an option. I'm just going to go. And to me, that it took all of my focus and energy to be able to do that.
And what's been your learning from starting your own business? How long has it been that you've been doing your own thing? And what have you learned through the process from day one to where we are now?
How much time you got?
Could be another episode, I'm sure.
Truly, that question I could answer for a very long time. It's been 7 years. I spent 2 years consulting, but also just testing a bunch of different things within. I bought and sold an e-commerce business. I started a blog. I was coaching. I was consulting. I did a recruiting placement. Like I did a 2-year phase of almost prototyping my skills and just trying different things, which I think is such a valuable use of time. And then started Mylance really pretty organically from that coaching and the consulting I was doing and teaching other people how to do it, seeing an opportunity in the market. So it somewhat was organic. The biggest learnings I'd say are, this might sound ridiculous, but just go do it. Like sitting there planning and writing a business model and doing all those kind of strategic things. I would say literally spend 1 hour doing that, like legitimately, and
Yeah.
then just go do the thing. And by do the thing, I mean make the post on LinkedIn, talk to people, reach out to people, start building like a no code solution. Just do the thing that actually moves the needle in the business. And every single thing that you do, ask yourself if this is really moving the needle or not. And I'll tell you, in the latest iteration of Mylance, we built this LinkedIn content tool that builds you a strategy and builds you a content calendar and tells you what to post, all that kind of stuff. I didn't go build the software. I actually built a Notion calendar, a Airtable integrated with Zapier and ChatGPT and Slack. I don't need to go build this thing. In fact, you shouldn't build this thing until I've truly validated that the problem I believe exists, one, is big, and two, I can solve it with this set of solutions. So I had an MVP done in a day, right? And I had luckily a community and newsletter and people to get on it quickly. But I was like, let me just play around with no code Notion until I know that this is solving the problem. And then I went out and built the software. And by then I had learned so much about what it needs to look like and what it needs to do and everything. So it's like, just take the lowest thing that you could possibly do and launch that before you spend any real money, any real energy and time on building like the thing you think you should build. Absolutely the way
Yeah,
to go.
but a lot of people, as you say, write the business plan, get their website, get everything in place, and actually they're wasting time. You want to be working with clients, talking to people, building relationships. They are much the more important aspects of business rather than trying to get, like they say over here, like all your ducks in a row. Actually, there's a great saying from an entrepreneur over here, which is start now, get perfect later. And I think that's a great way of starting a business, because that will get you further forward than writing a 20, 30, 40 page business plan.
And I think the website's a really good example, right? Because it seems like the first place you should start. And at the end of the day, you're not going to have a good looking website unless you spend a lot of money. And AI changes the game a little bit now. But two, you're not going to know the marketing copy to write. No idea what your users actually resonate with until you've talked to 30 or 50 of them.
Mm.
Right. And yeah, it's all about just getting out there, which is the scary thing. And it's why people go build the website first. The website is safe,
Yeah.
right? No one sees it. It's just on some domain that gets no traffic. You're like, okay, I could spend all the time and energy and logo, website, business plan that no one sees because it's not scary. The scary thing that for most people is going to talk to the user and potentially getting told no or rejected or your idea is
Yeah.
stupid, or that's the scary thing. And that's the only thing that moves the needle.
Yeah, absolutely. So something you mentioned was this 2 years of experimentation, doing a few contracts, starting a few side hustles. I really want to delve into that, because that's something that a lot of people from going into leaving their corporate role, going into, don't often do. What was the thought process behind making that decision, and how did those 2 years work out for you for when you were ready to start Mylance?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. There's a book called Designing Your Life, and it's by two Stanford professors where they have a class at Stanford and they talk about this concept of prototyping. Because
Yeah.
like people think, let's say you want to go be a chef. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go to culinary school. And it's hold on, before you commit to 2 years of culinary school, why don't you go intern at a restaurant or go intern
Mm.
for a private chef for a month? Go find out if you even like this damn thing before you
Yeah.
spend all this time, right? So I just took that concept and really ran with it, because when I was at Uber, Uber was my whole life. I didn't know anything besides Uber, and I just got totally wrapped up in the mission and the vision and the people, and which was great. But when I left the company, I had no idea what the rest of the world looked like from a business opportunity perspective and how my skills could translate in different things. And so I went in with a mindset of no pressure on myself and let's just dabble in a few different things. And I talked to everyone who would talk to me. Truly, I took every single networking call and just I'm a yes man for the next however long. I'm saying yes. And as I mentioned, one of those conversations turned into, hey, if you know any technical recruiters in your network, we're hiring for one. We'll give you 20% of their first year's salary if you find us someone we hire. So I was like, cool. I made 20 grand basically in 2 phone calls. And then I was curious about e-commerce and Shopify style stores. And so I found a exchangemarketplace.com where you can buy Shopify stores. And I bought a very small one, but I bought one, I negotiated, I got all the inventory, I set up the whatever, I had the website and the social media and all that kind of stuff. I learned so much by just doing that business. And I remember I was like, why are you doing fulfillment from your living room? And he was like, what are you talking about? He had no idea you could automate fulfillment. And so I automated fulfillment for him or for the business, which was now mine. And then I realized I didn't want to sell wine openers for the rest of my life. So I resold the business, but now I had automated fulfillment and I sold the business for 4 times what I bought it for. And again, it was a really small deal. But by the doing component of my prototyping, I learned so much about what I was capable of and just what I liked and what I didn't like. And the most successful part of this was my consulting business. So I was working with seed and series A startups and I was helping them with their logistics parts of their businesses given my work at Uber, and I loved it. It was so much fun. I made great money. I was making about 25, 30K a month on average, and I was working like 20 hours a week for these companies. So I was making more than my Uber salary. I was working 20 hours a week. I was the expert in the room. I was learning how to negotiate and set rates and offers and contracts and everything that I didn't know before. And it gave me all this free time to just play around with this other stuff. So it was incredibly lucrative. And I'm not saying everything I did succeeded. I started a blog and I shut that down. And the e-commerce business, my sales were tiny. Hey, there's plenty of things I did that didn't make me a lot of money, but I learned a ton. And as I started to share about my consulting business on LinkedIn, I just had the thought, why don't I just share what I'm doing? This has been interesting. People started to reach out and they're like, hey, I'm really curious about how you started this consulting thing, how you're finding clients, how you're setting your rate, what kind of projects you're doing. And maybe the 8th or 9th phone call, I just told this woman, I was like, you know what? I'm going to help you. Like, you're going to hire me as your coach. For the next 6 months, we're going to work together. You're going to give me a cut of your revenue. So there's no upfront amount. And I'm just going to work with you every week until you grow your business for the next 6 months. And she was like, deal, like on the spot. And I was making this up. I had no plans to start this business or coach her or anybody. And then my next phone call was like, I have a program and you work with me in this way. And I just started making it up as I went. And I'd give them an exercise and they would send it back to me and I'd give them the next exercise. And I was in Google Sheets and email and Calendly. Like, I didn't build anything. And then I was like, wait, maybe I should charge up front and then do a revenue share. And then wait, maybe I should do a cohort based model. And then I just evolved. And all of a sudden I had a business and I had a cohort based coaching program. So it goes back to my original advice of just do it. But to answer your question, my prototyping phase was dabbling in all these different areas and learning what I liked and what I was good at and whatnot.
How do you acquire your own clients? What are your strategies to be able to get your clients?
LinkedIn's our major strategy. I've been posting every day for a better part of 5 years now. And what we've done now is we essentially have I'm going to call it a content pyramid. So we have a podcast as well. And from the podcast, we take that content and disseminate it across the different channels. So the podcast, right? Obviously, Spotify, Apple, YouTube when they're video. We then take the clips, make shorter clips, and we post them all over LinkedIn, X, Twitter, and YouTube Shorts and Instagram. But then we take the transcript from the podcast, which is all golden nuggets of wisdom, and I turn that into a blog, a newsletter, LinkedIn post, and tweets. And so from one podcast episode, and we do one every single week, I get content from every part of basically the internet, like wherever people are, video, text, whatever it is, we have it disseminated everywhere and we reuse it all the time. So I'd say people find us in different ways. The major channel is LinkedIn. Like, I built up a following of 24,000 or something like that. And that's going to be where we get the most impressions from. But the podcast is big too, because when I'm in somebody's ear once a week listening to my voice, then that relationship is much more intimate than just reading my stuff on Twitter or LinkedIn. So people come to me like, I love your podcast. and then they're ready to buy. Like they know me, they like me, they trust me, like they're in.
See, that's why podcasting is such a great medium. As you say, there's a certain element of intimacy that you can't get on LinkedIn reading a text post that you do get when doing your own podcast, because you're sharing experiences, sharing case studies, sharing. What is the format of your show? What's the show called and what's the format?
Yeah, the show is called Six Figure Secrets for Fractional Experts. So we're really sharing every intimate piece that's going to make you successful as a fractional. We have two different formats. We alternate between an audio episode once a week that I record myself on a topic I've been asked about probably that week or the week before. And I'll just go a deep dive into a specific topic. And then the alternate week is a guest. And so we'll do just like this, about 45 minutes with either an expert fractional who's built their business and have all these trade secrets to share, maybe a coach who works with tons of fractionals. And then we'll also interview someone who's built tools for fractionals and what they've seen and how they've seen fractionals kind of optimize their businesses.
Amazing. You built a business and a career on flexibility and autonomy for yourself as well as your clients. But what does success look like for you now compared to maybe your time at Uber?
Yeah, it's a great question. The time at Uber I was working 24/7, and right, it was like all hands on deck. It was do whatever it takes for the company. We worked, holidays were the busiest days for Uber. So my Halloweens, my New Year's, my Valentine's days, like we'd all huddle at somebody's house and monitor their cities and fix things when they broke and all that kind of stuff. As I've gotten older, of course, there's such a desire for the balance of enjoying the other parts of life. And so for me, success is really one, adding value. Like I love building, I love helping, I love solving problems, and enabling other people to live a flexible life is just so powerful to me. So that's my why behind all of this. Right. So success is one, adding that value, and then two, creating flexibility in my own life that basically I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, from wherever I want. So I don't want this massive team. I don't want $1 billion company. I don't want needing to be in the office 5 days a week. I think my perfect world is building a few $100K a month business that I can run from wherever that has the fewest employees as possible. And especially these days with automations and AI, you don't need that many people. It depends on the play.
Have you read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek?
It was one of the things that started like this whole journey for me. I probably read it right after I left Uber, and I was like, oh my God, like, this is, yeah. It was an absolute life-changing book for me, for sure.
Yeah, it was for me as well. Leaving, so I worked in corporate for about 14 years, and it's one of those sort of like mindset shifts that you have, and you're just like, oh, there is actually, I don't know, like something more than corporate world, which is a challenge for some people because that's all they've ever known. And I was there a long time as well, so it is that. But what for you is that mindset shift of saying, I'm going to do fewer hours, but have, in some cases, a bigger impact across a couple of different businesses. How did you manage that mindset shift, and how are you now living that mindset shift that you did?
I think the mindset shift for me has been very gradual. I think it's a really hard thing to shift from what I was when I grew up. It's you go work for somebody else, you go work for a few decades and move up the ladder and the traditional thing. Moving from that to I'm comfortable on my own, designing my exact professional life however the hell I want takes real time. That is not a quick thing. And when I first left Uber and I was consulting, as I said, I was making good money in about 20 hours a week, which meant there maybe was 40 hours that I had normally been working that I no longer was. And that was so bizarre. I know it sounds like that's like the dream, right? When it actually happened with me, I had an existential crisis. I was like, this feels wrong. This feels uncomfortable. I don't need to even get up at a certain time in the day. So should I just sleep in? When do I do my work? Am I doing a good job? I had all of these because I didn't have any structure, right? I didn't have a salary. I didn't have meetings. I didn't have a boss telling me I was doing a good job or give me feedback. I didn't have anything. So I was like, okay, I need to build some structure for myself because I'm like losing my mind here and how bizarre this feels. And I used to have check-ins with myself. Am I doing a good job? And I'd be like, okay, what do I really need to do? I need to make money. I need to have happy clients. I need to do business development. Okay. Yeah. Like you completely redefine your entire world. And that was very jarring. 7 years later, it's my norm. It's just how I think about the world. It's just how I think about my business. It's who I am as an entrepreneur. I create my own flexibility. I do whatever the hell I want whenever I want. And now I've designed it that way and I live it every day and I freaking love it. But I can't say it's a quick thing and I can't say it's an easy journey, even though it sounds great, but it's still like an existential, who the hell am I and what am I doing on this planet kind of, that was.
No, I get that. When I left the corporate world, and as you say, this silence. And I don't know if you can resonate with this. There's periods of, and you fill it with calls and work and other things like flexibility for family or for hobbies or activities outside. But when I was working in the corporate world, it was like there was meetings all day, and then after hours where there weren't any meetings, you were then doing the work, or you were doing the work in the early in the morning before the meetings in the day. It was suddenly there was like gaps in my diary, and that was a real mindset shift for me, that it's okay that there's gaps in your day. Do you know what I mean by that? It's just, okay, this morning I'm going to do some errands, or I'm going to take my kids somewhere, or I'm going to take my wife somewhere. There can be gaps in your day where in my life in corporate, for me, it was like 9 till 6 calls, meetings, and then after that, then it was the work that needs to be done on top of it. But yeah, does that resonate with you? Just space and time in your day?
100%. It's like I feel like I should be working right now, but
Yeah.
actually I don't need to be working right now when I really take a step back. So I get to give myself permission to, sure, run an errand or have free time or
Yeah.
take my dog on a walk or cook something or go to the gym. I still feel weird about it, Mark. I'm going to be
Yeah, I
honest. Like I
still feel weird
still,
about it.
yeah, even when I block off an afternoon to go have a me afternoon, going to the gym
Yeah.
at 3 p.m. feels bizarre. I'm like, shoot, like
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be here. Like
Yeah.
it absolutely.
And what about from the transition? We've talked about the Uber to the solo sort of consultancy work, but you move from a freelancer consultant into being a founder, which I think also is a different mindset shift for you there. What was that transition like?
Yeah, it's a great call out because the consulting business was never something I was really looking to grow and scale, right? I never wanted to build a consulting business. And so I was like keeping it 3 clients max, 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week max. Moving over to be a founder, first of all, I'm not charging my clients 20 grand a month. But I immediately went from making really good money to no money. And then I went from working maybe 20, 30 hours a week max to working like 60, 70 hours a week max. So it's almost, you're like, what are you doing? You went from this like really high quality life with good money and low hours to this like more meaningful life, but with low money and high hours. And people are like, what are you doing? And it's okay. There's a real purpose for me here. I
Yeah.
I didn't leave Uber to start a consulting business or be a coach. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't for me. And knowing my why, knowing the trade off and saying, okay, I'm going to go after this for however long it takes to build a business that I want, that impacts the people that I want in the way that I want. And I'm willing to deal with the sacrifice, accept the sacrifice of money and work longer hours to have a more fulfilling outcome that is frankly not guaranteed, like never is, right?
Yeah.
So that has been a very interesting journey, not easy by any stretch of the imagination, and something that I definitely come to terms with over the years. But um, getting very clear on my why for this has been incredibly important. That's why I bring it. If I didn't have my why, the numbers just don't make sense. You do not.
Yeah. How have you grown your client base for Mylance? What's been the growth strategies that have really worked for you?
From a top of funnel marketing strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to I shared about our content strategy across the
Yeah.
podcast and LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff. There for us, and I think most companies are like this. there needs to be some sort of way to get in the door to Mylance that is super lightweight, right? The easiest one is sign up for a newsletter and whatever it is.
Yeah.
There are much more effective ways, right? Like we have one now where we'll analyze your LinkedIn for you for who you are currently attracting with your language. Who's your ideal customer according to your LinkedIn profile? So we do like a LinkedIn audit, which is a great lead magnet for cool. You probably are thinking about using LinkedIn to acquire customers. So then, oh, by the way, we have this content thing. Let us show you that. And if you're not ready for that, in the meantime, you'll be added to our newsletter and we'll share genuinely value added content on a weekly basis while you're being nurtured, figuring your things out, whatever's going on for you. And then when you're ready. I think the biggest mistake I made early on in the first year and a half of Mylance was not having a low barrier lead magnet to get in the door. I would just have apply to our boot camp. At the time we had like a consulting boot camp. I was like, apply to the boot camp was the main call to action. And we'd get applications, but I was probably missing out on a few dozen emails every week of visitors that weren't ready to apply to the boot camp, but wanted to know the loop about what we were doing. And I had no way to do that. So we've gotten much better these days of let's get people in the door and then we can nurture them. And now my email list is thousands of emails long. Whereas a lot of companies, I feel like they're missing that piece. Find a way to allow your customer to express interest and the loop without committing to a big thing if you have a high ticket item. And that's what we've done. And I've experimented with dozens of lead magnets over the years.
What's been your most successful lead magnet?
It's a good question. The community has been amazing. We have a Slack community and it's completely free and it's just people helping each other out. We have a rates database in there. When we've had that, we've tried so many, and I've had lead magnets that have gone viral and then they fall off, right? So we had one that was, I'll send you the proposal I used to close my first $21,000 client, $21,000 a month. And when I posted that on LinkedIn, it got 400 comments in 3 days. It was like, okay, people want this, but it wasn't really sustainable over time. Right. It wasn't that like thing that really I'm going to have evergreen on the website. We've had hits like that have done really well, but the evergreen one has been the community. Like apply to join the Mylance community where you're surrounded by high-end fractional executives and whatever it is. And the rates database. The rates database is pretty cool. You submit a rate that you have with a client, and then you get access to the whole database that everybody's filled out. And it's all automated on the back end. Like it's all Zapier and automations. I don't do anything. People love that because it's just, there's no good source of truth for rates for consulting and fractionals. And so seeing what other people are charging is really valuable to help rationalize higher rates for yourself.
Yeah. And the fractional space we've discussed a couple of times is a relatively new concept. How much do you find you still need to educate part of your value add to be able to shift people's perceptions of the fractional space?
So I think the work that you're talking about and shifting people's perceptions is more the companies need to get their head around it. I do definitely not want to convince anybody that they should be fractional, right? I want people that already have decided to be on their own fractional consulting, maybe even have already done it for 6 months, and then they need support in making their business development more sustainable. But I don't want to educate a single, because I used to work with those people.
Let's say, how do you educate the clients that instead of having a full-time employee, have a fractional person for 2 or 3 days a week?
Yeah. So the answer there is you are going to get your problem solved because you're going to get the expert at that problem. And that's what should be important to you as a business owner. Right? What is my problem? Can this person solve it? Great. There's the exception is I need the smart jack of all trades to just go do a bunch of stuff in my business. Then you probably need a full-time person, right? Like you need someone that's just all in. They just jump around, do all the different things. But when you have those more niche problems, and I think finance is a really good example where a lot of startups, you don't need a CFO. But you do need someone that's like looking at the books and financial forecasting, making sure you have enough cash on hand. Where are we getting money? Right. But do you really need a full-time person that costs like 200 grand to do that? But could you find a great fractional finance person that you pay 6-7 grand a month or something like that to just do specifically what you need? Absolutely. Right. And so what's your problem? Can this person solve it? And as long as you're focused on what matters, then it should not matter how many hours per week they're working.
Yeah. How do you think you've evolved as a leader?
I love this question. I think a few things. One is being very comfortable that the people around me are smarter than I am in their field. Like my job should be to hire people that are smarter than me, give them the problem to solve and let them do it. That and having no ego about it. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like I don't need
Yeah.
an ego about being smarter than these people because I
Ryan
shouldn't be.
Holland put a book called Drop Your Ego, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think that's number one. And I think number two is me being unattached to the outcome of the business and being a lot more attached to the process that we're following. I think good businesses have great process, they have great systems, they have great structure. And when you have great structure and you've set good goals, you have a high chance of achieving those goals. But if you set good goals and then have no good structure and process, the odds of hitting those goals are incredibly low, like incredibly low. So really focusing on structure and process. I can't say I had any knowledge of that at all going into starting my own business. I was like, oh, just set goals and then we'll work on stuff. So no. And then I just think the importance of connecting with your people in what's important to them. So I learned somewhat the hard way of me projecting what's important to me in my work life onto my employees is not going to get me anywhere. Find out what drives them. It could be money. It could be impact. It could be work-life balance. You don't know until you ask, hey, what's important to you here? I remember, I'll never forget this. My CTO back in the day, I just wanted to send him a thank you. And I gave him a random bonus and I wrote him a really nice thank you note. And I thought that the money would be a really big deal. And he basically came back and said, wow, thank you so much. I'm really appreciative of this. Your note meant everything to me.
Yeah, nice.
And I was like, I'm glad. I was like, but did you enjoy the bonus? He's like, yeah, that was nice. But the note and I was like, okay. And it's not that I shouldn't have given him the bonus.
No, it's the motivation. People's motivations are very different. Very different.
I think when you first start a company, you don't know what you don't know. And you don't necessarily think about a lot of these kinds of things that are really important. Because if your people aren't happy and not at a high level and they eventually leave, you just lose so much talent and institutional knowledge walks out the door. And it's expensive and training's expensive and your people are everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the plans for the next 2 to 5 years for your business?
Yeah, it is to add the most value, truly. Make this software that we built, people are loving it, but make it the most powerful software in its niche on the planet. So for me, that is the results of that will be obviously growing the user base and growing revenue and making it profitable. But it's all about how many people can we add this value to? And then what I see us doing is building adjacent products that support the same product, right? So there might be add-ons where it's okay, we've nailed content and we are the best content generator on the planet. But you also need to be adding new connections so that more of the right people are seeing your content. So I could easily see us adding in doing the research. We know your ideal customer. We know where they are on LinkedIn. Add these 100 people every week and we give you that list. And you maybe pay an extra $50 a month or something like that and you get your list. Things like that are all surrounding the exact same problem, just continuing to solve the problem more and more holistically with software. The other thing I'll say is creating a movement. I think that I'm starting with software. I think it's the right place to start to really just add that value. But I really want to help people with mindset. I want to help people with community. I want to help people with resources. It's never been easier to start a business than it is right now. And the mindset, I think, is what holds so many people back. And so I really want to solve that as well, or at least support people in that of get over your damn fear of failure, fear of looking bad, fear of all the things, and go solve a problem that impacts the world that you really care about. Like that's what really matters.
What really matters, absolutely. Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. So same 6 questions to all my guests. So quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. The first question is, what's the best decision that you've made?
Going out on my own. just quit, just move, just do it. It's scary. People ask me, how did you do it? I was like, you know what? I just freaking did it. I will say I cleaned up my resume and I went to go talk to a few different other companies just to see my value in the market. I was like, I need a backup plan in
Yeah.
case this doesn't work. But one day I just quit and I took a few months off and I just trusted I'll figure it out. I remember those days so well. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I remember my dad asked me like, what are you going to do? What's your plan? And I'm like, I don't have one. And I'm okay with that. Maybe you're not okay with it, but I'm okay with it. And I'm going to figure it out. And I don't need you for anything. Like, just trust me. I trust myself. Just trust me. And so
Yeah.
having that faith in yourself, that's the best decision I ever made.
Amazing. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
I've gotten the advice around the needle moving stuff over and over and over again. And I've now given it over and over again, but it's just don't spend time on stuff that doesn't move the needle. That's what I was told. And I've learned it somewhat the hard way as well. And build that muscle of awareness of like when you're doing that thing. For me, it's business models. I love building out this beautiful financial model about how successful my business is going to be. That is such a waste of time. I love doing it. It feels good. I'm good at it. It doesn't move the needle at all. So I'm never building a financial model for my business ever again. That was my commitment to myself. Just don't freaking do it. It doesn't freaking matter. That's the advice. Do the hard thing that moves the needle and don't do literally anything else. It's just holding you back and wasting your time.
Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
My first ever boss at Uber, her name is Arthi, and she believed in me before I believed in myself. And she empowered me. She saw what I was capable of, and she let me run. She's the only boss I've ever had that surprised me with a promotion. Like every other promotion I've ever gotten, I had to work my freaking ass off for and claw, please promote me, like I deserve it for all these reasons. She surprised me. And I was not expecting it. And she just let me run further and further and further. And this is many years ago now, but I am forever thankful for giving me that push to realize for myself what I was capable of, which then gave me the confidence to go ask for bigger roles at Uber and go out on my own. And then I came back to her and asked her to be an advisor at my company, and she made a small investment, and it all comes back in circle. But she's such an amazing human being, and just such a promoter of me that I don't know if I'd be here without her.
Amazing. Tell me about a regret that you have.
I definitely regret not capturing emails early on in the first 2 years of Mylance. The bigger regret I have is, and it's not a regret because I just didn't know better, but I tried to do so many things in the first few years of Mylance. And we had a community, we were building software, we're running this coaching program, we launched a bookkeeping business line, we built more software. And I just wish I knew to build one narrow niche product and have it be best in the world. And that's enough. In fact, that's like the max that I can do. And so, and should do when we're small and early. And I just didn't know better. And none of my advisors really called me out on it, or maybe they did and I didn't listen. But I definitely regret just not going all in on one product the whole time.
Yeah. Was there a time you wanted to give up, and what pulled you through to carry on?
I'd say very often. And it's not actually thought about giving up, but I think there's certainly a consideration of, is this the best path? Does this make sense for my life? Does this make sense financially? Like all those kinds of questions. And what's kept me going is my why. I just know that if I abandon this, I'll be back at it building another business in a month. I just know myself. I know what I love doing. I know why I'm here on this planet. I know what drives me. I know what situations I respond well in and don't respond well in. And I don't respond well listening to someone else tell me what to do. That's for sure. So I wanted to give up a lot, especially when things are really hard or it feels like we're going to run out of money, or people are telling me that your coaching program back in the day was like, your coaching program sucks. Like, there's always going to be someone that basically tells you suck. And it's really hard when I've put so much time, energy, and my being into a business and then someone tells you like it sucks. It's just, I've gotten better at it, but you're gonna have it. Everyone
Yeah.
has it, and so those are the
Sometimes
times.
people aren't at the right time for your product or service. Sometimes it's not necessarily the service, it's that they're not ready. Yeah, there's so many reasons why people say this is not for me, or as you said, they can be a little bit more this, I think this sucks, I don't think this actually works either. So yeah, it's something you have to have a thicker skin than
Yeah,
in corporate, because in corporate you're protected to an extent because
right.
it's the brand, where when it's your own thing and you're building it and someone says, look, this doesn't work, you're just like, why didn't it work for them? And actually it's not always it's not on you. So take faith in that it's not always on you.
Totally. Yeah, and I've learned a lot, but those have been maybe the times I've wanted to give up the most.
Yeah, I understand that. Tell me something that most people don't know about you.
Does it have to be a business sense, or it could be some.
Anything.
I started taking Latin dance classes about 2 years ago,
Are you
salsa
any
and
good
bachata.
now? 2 years ago, any good?
Yeah, yeah. I've been going every week for 2 years, and
Wow.
I knew nothing about it, and I was a total beginner and two left feet at the beginning. And it's such a journey in ego, in having fun doing, making mistakes, in being a lead in a partner dance where maybe you're not confident at the beginning or many
Mm-hmm.
times. I didn't realize it was going to be such a like self-discovery journey in learning to dance. And now I feel like I have a superpower because I can show up to any salsa situation, social club, whatever, and ask any girl in the room to dance and be pretty confident in just what I'm going to do and have a lot of fun with it. So
Amazing.
it's a great outlet for me. It gets me out of my head. It gets me out of, you have to be fully present. There's no thinking about my business while I'm on the dance floor. And so it's just something I picked up and I've stuck with. And now I'm totally addicted. I go all the time.
Oh,
So
amazing. What does legacy mean to you?
yeah, it's something that exists without me. And I guess that's a kind of simple answer, but my why is about driving others to, or enabling others to live fulfilling lives. That's where I get my fulfillment from. And so if that continues past me, both in my present day, meaning they're getting value from without me physically being there, whether I'm dead or just doing something else, that's what it means. That's what it means to me. And I'd say it's a big part of what drives me from I want to build really amazing value added stuff that people have their life changed by.
Amazing. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you or find out more about your business?
LinkedIn, again, I post every day. You're going to learn a lot from me. So Bradley Jacobs on LinkedIn, you can search. There's a billionaire freight guy, Bradley Jacobs, but I'll be the second one. Bradley Jacobs, Mylance. And then also just come to our website, mylance.co, and you can sign up. You'll see our lead magnets and things that you can get for free. I love hearing people from LinkedIn that just say, "Hey, heard you on this podcast, learned something new,
Yeah,
shared it with a friend, got some value." Like that means everything to me.
brilliant. Thank you, Bradley. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. I've learned so much about the industry, and I think your story is inspiring and an amazing story. So thank you very much for being on my show.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Mark. I enjoyed it.